Bloody hell. My nasal hair is like bloody Sherwood Forest. I tell you what, if I trimmed all that down, I'd have Greenpeace on my case. Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. I hope you're all doing well this Sunday evening. Paul Pogba's great escape. We'll also be talking about Marcus Rashford, a bit about Donny van der Beek's comments as well. Agendas must stop, says Jay Lindo. And look, so basically we're going to start off with Paul Pogba. Paul Pogba speaks out on his Manchester United escape. We anticipate in an international break that Paul Pogba goes away to France. He absolutely loves it, and there is always a comment that comes out that is perceived or is unfairly attributed to Pogba that is negative towards Manchester United. So what has he come out and said? And, you know, I've seen a lot of the reaction today and I know what my reaction is to this. A few people are saying Pogba out. Some people are saying give Pogba a break. So basically Pogba's been speaking to RTL, which I think is a French outlet. And he said this. He said that I'm going through the most difficult period of my career. Being with the French team has been a breath of fresh air. It's magic. So, I mean, effectively, he's going through a very difficult period, the most difficult period of his career. And getting away with France has been like a breath of fresh air and magical. Now, there's two ways you can read that. You could read that, well, you know what? He's not enjoying his time at Manchester United. He loves being with France. This is where he's most happiest, and he's not happy at Manchester United. Of course, you could read it that way. I'm not saying you shouldn't read it that way. But you could also read it that, you know, he's having a really difficult time, and he's gone away, and it's been a breath of fresh air, and it's going to send him back to Manchester United rejuvenated. You know, it could be like, you know, Dave the salesman, who is normally the best salesman on the shop floor. They bring in a couple of new salesmen, one called Bruno. He outsells Dave. Everyone loves Bruno. No one loves Dave. Dave is really fed up. Dave goes on holiday for a lad's holiday to Mallorca, has a really good time, and, you know, it makes him think, you know what, I'm going to work harder and I'm going to be a better salesman than Bruno. And he comes back and he is. And I think that's the benefit of the doubt I would give on this one, is that I don't know why I didn't call Dave Paul, because it could easily be Paul the salesman. But I just think that I've always felt with Paul Pogba this season, and I you know, I could be proven wrong on this. I know there are a lot of people out there. I mean, Craig Smith says Pogba's crap, sell him. I know there's a lot of people out there in the United fan base who just want him to go, and I'll talk about what I think about that in a minute. But I get that, I understand that. I think the evidence is there over 4 years to want him to go. There's, you know, reason that people don't like Pogba. I get that as well. But the point I want to say is that I don't really think that these comments should be read as him slating Manchester United, as him saying that he wants to get out of Manchester United. To me, when he says, you know, it's a breath of fresh air to be with the French squad, they've been magic. I think he feels happier with France, and I've always said this. And, you know, the comment that the squad's been magic, well, they're obviously giving him support. Why doesn't he feel that from Manchester United? So, you know, there's clearly a bit of an issue there, I would say. But on the other hand, he did say he's been going through the most difficult period of his career. I don't think Manchester United have created that. I don't think Manchester United fans have created that. I don't think the media have created that. And I don't think, you know, wanting to go to Real Madrid or Juventus has created that. I think he's gone through the most difficult period of his career because he's not able to do the things that he was 6 months ago. I think he has been very, very badly affected by the COVID, and I think there is an issue with his fitness levels. It was terrible for France last Wednesday, so it's not just a United thing. He looked bereft of energy. He looks like he's making bad decisions. He looks like he's not able to keep up with the pace of the game. I've seen him trying to shield players off and he loses the ball. Same last Wednesday for France. So I don't think that I think when Pogba talks about going through the worst period of his career, I think he means in relation to his ability as a footballer. And I think going back to France and, you know, being where he's most happy has given him a new perspective. And we'll see over the next few weeks whether he comes back to Manchester United and takes that. On the other hand, I must be honest, Didier Deschamps mentioned that what did he say? Deschamps says he's been I can't remember. It's affected him mentally, basically. That's what Deschamps says, the situation. And he spoke more broadly about the United situation. Now, look, you could flip it that way and say, well, you know, at the end of the day, he's been dropped. You know, maybe he's talking about it's the most difficult period of his career because he's been dropped. And I suppose it depends which side of the fence you're on there. Because, you know, he has been dropped. But and France is his home, Michael V, as well. But I think that, you know, do you look at it like, well, you know, he's talking about being tired because of he's talking about going through a difficult period because of the COVID and the tiredness, or is he going through a difficult period because he's been dropped? And I think that, to me, is where you'll find what you think about this tonight. Personally, I just think let's see what happens when Paul Pogba comes back from playing for France. Is he going to go straight back into the team for the West Brom game? No, he'll be on the bench. Will he force his way back into the team? Will he perform? These are the things we're going to find out. And wherever you sit on the Paul Pogba debate, I have said this a few times now, we're not going to sell him in January. If he's going to go, he's going to go in the summer. There's a whole season ahead of us. We've seen how many people are getting injuries. Unless Paul Pogba goes and gets a 3 or 4 month injury, which I would be very suspicious about if that happened again, I think we're going to have to use him. We're going to have to get the best out of him, and I think he will. I think we'll see a different Paul Pogba between now and the end of the season. I may be very wrong on that. Maybe I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I've always liked Paul Pogba, the player. I've been frustrated by his inconsistency, and I think he should have done better in a Manchester United shirt. But I'm not overly concerned about what he said tonight. I didn't take that as a negative. I'm not happy at United. I'm happy at France. I don't want to be at United. I didn't take it as that. I just think he's being open to the fact that he's going through a difficult period. And I personally, with my eyes, think that's because he's playing badly. One thing I would say about France, though, that's quite interesting. Remember, I always say that, I don't get hyped up by the McTominay and Fred hype train, because basically, I think if you know football, we are playing two people to do one person's job. I think, what I would say to everybody is then, if McTominay and Fred are so great, why don't we play Fred on his own as the CDM? Because you all know he can't do it. Why don't we play McTominay on his own as the CDM? Because you all know he can't do it. So why do we get excited about McTominay and Fred? Because we're basically playing two players to do one person's job, which sacrifices a player like Pogba or Van der Beek. They don't get to start games because we have to play two players to do one person's job. The only one person that's ever been able to do that is Nemanja Matic, and for some reason, maybe it's age catching up with him, I don't know. But we don't really do that anymore. So McTominay and Fred are two players doing one person's job. Now look at France. Kante and Pogba have played together 26 times and they've never lost a game when they've played together. And in those games, Kante and Pogba play in a deep lying midfield role. Well, Kante, as we know, can get forward and score a goal. He did one last night, but he's a very tenacious, fantastically talented, one of the best CDMs in the world. Paul Pogba, with someone like that next to him, can play that deeper role with a bit of licence to get forward, but he's got his passing range, he can move with the ball. And I've said this for a long time. I think it's 2 years now I've been saying that I think a CDM is a priority for Manchester United. And I don't understand why we haven't done that. Because effectively, Matic is becoming more and more impossible to use, it seems, as a one holding CDM player. So therefore, we're playing McTominay and Fred, which is two players doing one role, which means Pogba has to go to the bench. So I do sympathise with Pogba's situation because I think he has played well in a Manchester United shirt when he's had a good holding midfielder next to him. And both of those times it was Matic. The first 3 months of Oli and the last 3 months of last season was Matic. So Pogba is somewhat limited by this Manchester United side at the moment as well. And I don't know what his future is going to be unless we go back to using Matic. But can Matic do that role? But I personally think if United had actually just gone out and bought a good centre defensive midfielder at any point in the last 3 years, we would have seen a better Paul Pogba. I saw the first half last night. He got so much time on the ball compared to the Premier League. The tempo was much lower, says Per Eric Klassen. He's done nothing in 4 years at the club and he doesn't even look interested. Everyone goes on about how he won the World Cup, but let's not forget the other 10 players, says Cameron Lane. And the hate Pogba is getting, it's not developed on its own. People have been pushed there by the media. It's not healthy. Just look at the comments when he speaks on mental health or even his well-being, says Alex. And Zakaria is what we should be after, says Kalash. I mean, can I just say on Zakaria, I hear his name mentioned a lot. I even have him on my FIFA career mode. But he has been injured for the last 6 months with a knee injury. So he's not really somebody that we can just go and get. There's a few people mentioning Declan Rice. I don't think that we're going to get a top-class CDM. I don't think it's even on the list. But I do think it's a massive priority. And I do think we're heading down a very dangerous road of negative counter-attacking football the more we pick McTominay and Fred. I'm telling you now, it's two players doing one person's job. They do a good job, but it is why Pogba and Van der Beek are on the bench, because we have to use two people to do one person's job. If you've got one person doing the job, it frees up another space for another midfielder who's a little bit different. So I do sympathise with Pogba and Van der Beek to a certain extent on that one. Pogba is still a fantastic player on his day, says Cami. And how is it the media at this point? Just look at the performances on the pitch, says Darius. Look, I'm not going to tell people what to think. You know, this community... And I must just say as well, we raised £15,000 in a day yesterday for the Marie Curie charity, which assists and supports people with terminal illness. This community that we've got is amazing, and everybody's got an entitlement to an opinion, and I'm not going to tell you what to think about Paul Pogba. All I'm going to say is what I've been saying for the last few weeks. He's never looked fit this season. And I don't really want to judge him until I see what I think is a fit Paul Pogba. I watched him play for France last night. He looked a little bit better. But as that previous comment said, it's international football. It was a lot slower in the midfield. I don't know whether we're going to see a fully fit Paul Pogba. I mean, is he going to get a secondary injury? As I said, I don't know. But I do not think we've seen the real Paul Pogba this season, fitness-wise. And I think he's ended up where he needs to be. And I personally think that's what he means when he says it's the most difficult part of his career. Because I think he's lost his place in the team and he's powerless to do anything about it because he's not at his best. And I think he's gone to France. He's been surrounded by people that he won a World Cup with, that he loves and gets on with. And it's a magical atmosphere because it's a bit like a holiday camp. And he feels happy. Whereas at United, everything's been negative for him this season, you know. So I do get that. Let's see what we get when he comes back. Although Feelflow says it's a lame excuse. Pogba over Bruno all day, says Shugant. Yeah, I find that a little bit weird, but you know, everyone's got an entitlement to an opinion. If you like playing mid-table, let's kick Bruno out the team. And why is English media targeting Rashford, says TMC. We'll talk about that in a minute. And will the real Paul Pogba please stand up, says Rahul. I mean, one thing I must say before we move on as well is I did say I would answer this question, so I will throw it out to the live comments as well. Please smash a like on the video, by the way, everybody. And I didn't say at the start, I am wearing one of our new Christmas designs that you can get. I think we all know who's on there. Oh, come let us adore him. The reason we're in the top four, the reason we're in the Champions League, our most pivotal player at the moment. And I want Pogba to come back and be that as well. But the link is in the video description if you want to get yours. We do ship worldwide. But if you want it in Australia or America, get your orders in quick because obviously we're only 2 weeks out from December and you want to be wearing it in December. So links in the video description for that. Ricardo Fidelgo is using the Santa Bridge emoji, which you can use if you're a member, and a Bruno one there. But yeah, so I'll answer this question, even though it's not actually that relevant. If I was, a few of you said it. I don't like sitting on the fence. Paul Lee says get him out now, and Mark Bruno Bridge says Illa United. So a few people said at the start of the video, what would you do with Paul Pogba if you were Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and you had the power to do something about it? Right now, and I'm not going to sit on the fence because I could just say, well, you know what? There's so much more football to be played this season. Let's see what happens over the season and we can address it in the summer. A proper Premier League manager's response from the Premier League manager's response to difficult questions book. But if you're asking me what I would do with Paul Pogba at the moment, I would be working my arse off to try and get him back to where he was and get him in the team because I think we're a better team with a good Paul Pogba in it and I think him and Bruno can play together. But ultimately, I mean, I read a story today and it was in the Metro and it wasn't even sourced. So I've got no reason to believe it's true. Why would the Metro be getting exclusives about Paul Pogba? And you know, we renewed his contract for another year because it was up. Pogba's contract was up in the summer, but we had the option of another year and we activated it a few weeks ago. And there was a story in the Metro saying that Paul Pogba was disappointed that he wasn't consulted on this because he thought there was going to be a sit down about contracts and, you know, they thought that he would be consulted and United just activated it. Now, if that was true, and I've got no suggestion that that is true, it's just a story in the Metro, then this is another piece of wood on the fire, isn't it? To say, well, Pogba's not happy at United, they've gone and activated that contract without speaking to him, which is their right, but you would hope United would actually speak to him about it. But then we've seen Rio Ferdinand play his last game for United thinking he's going to get a new contract, and Edward would say, you're off. You can't even tell the fans. So United have got history for treating their players badly. But, I mean, look, if I was the manager of Manchester United and I had the power, what would you do? What would you do? Because what I would do is, I would say to Paul Pogba, there's two things I want to say to you, Paul. One, do you want to be at the club or do you want to go? If you want to go, right, give me what you can this season. We'll let you go in the summer. I'll even let you go in January if the right offer comes in, but it's not going to. So next summer you go. But let's end on a positive note. I haven't got a problem. I don't think you've been that good for us that I'm going to be desperately unhappy if you go. I want you to stay, but I want you to be consistent. And that's my second point. Why over the last 4 years have you not been as consistent as you should have been? What's the issue? So if he wants to stay, before I gave him a new contract, I'd want to know what the issue is. Paul Pogba says, I want to stay at Manchester United. I wouldn't be there with the contract. I'd be like, well, look, I want you to stay. I think you're a fantastic player, but I want to understand why you can't turn it on some weeks and then some weeks you can. So for me, the question would be Paul Pogba's to answer as the manager of United. I'd be like, do you want to go or do you want to stay? Either way, I'm happy. If you want to go, let's work together in a positive way and you will get your move in the summer. If you want to stay, I'm not giving you a contract at the moment. I want you to prove to me that you're good enough to stay at this football club. And that would be my answer. To me, I don't mind if Paul Pogba stays, and I don't really mind if he goes, because it's football. And I don't want players that aren't happy at the club, but I also don't want players at the club who aren't performing consistently. And I think that Paul Pogba is a two-tiered question for me. It is, do you want to be here? And if you do, well, let's find out why you've not performed as consistently as we would all like you to do. And that would be it. My personal hunch is that he wants to go next summer. And if that's the case, fine. That's fine. But you're here for the rest of the season. I don't want you to be sat on the bench. I want you to be the best Paul Pogba you can be, because ultimately I'll get more money for you. You'll get more offers. We're all winners. And then you go, and then we all wish each other the best. So that's what I would like to see. For me, it's not... I don't see the reason in hating a player or getting angry about a player. He's been here 4 years. Has it been an amazing 4 years? At times, yeah. At times it's been frustrating. So it's not like when Ronaldo left to go to Real Madrid. I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. If Paul Pogba goes to Real Madrid, I'd be like, well, he had 4 years to be this amazing player and it never really quite came off. So I wish him all the best and I hope he does well. But I've never felt any hate or disrespect to Paul Pogba at all. I think he's a nice guy. I think he comes across as a nice guy. I think he's a talented footballer, and maybe he's just another Sebastian Veron, who just realistically the Premier League is too fast for him. Fantastic in Italy, and maybe it's just too quick for him in the Premier League. But I'm not going to lose any sleep over what happens with Pogba. I want him in the first team this season. I want him to be in the first team because I think he's one of our better players. But next season we can move on, and I think in many ways we're already looking to do that with a Donny van der Beek. Gamer 101 says if he leaves it'll be sad, but I'll support his decision. Carl says stop with the bullshit. You want Pogba out, mate. If I want somebody out, I'll tell you. I'm not the biggest fan of McTominay and Fred, and that's very unfashionable to say that at the moment. McFred, to me, if they want to fuse together, then great and be one player. I think it'd be a very good player, but I'm not a big fan of them, and that's a real. Don't accuse me of not daring to say what I really think, because the easiest thing in the world is for me to say, oh, McTominay and Fred are great. They'll definitely win us a title. They won't. Maguire and Lindelof won't win us a title either. That's blunt honesty going against what the vast majority think. So if I wanted Pogba out, I'd say it. No reason not to. But I think at the moment he's not going anywhere till the summer. So my priority is I want United to get in the top four. And I think Paul Pogba has to be a part of that in some shape or form. I don't think I've ever hated a single United player. Don't think I can, says Paul Robinson. And Fred is in meta and in foot. He's fan. Fred on FIFA 21 is exactly the player you want as your CDM. Maguire as a CDM, says Rahul. In a funny way, I'd quite like to watch that. I don't think it would look that good. What do you think of Overmars' comments, says Ian? I spoke about it this morning, but look, Manchester United should be trying to get Van der Sar, whether he wants to leave Ajax or not, as the director of football. I think that would be good for us. Shady says, I've got a question. How come when Pogba is playing badly, it's bad fitness, but when McTominay plays bad, he's crap? Last year at Christmas, he was essential for us, and all of us were praising him. Well, the only thing, it's a good question, Shady. The only reason I'm giving Pogba an excuse of fitness, and I might be wide of the mark here, is that he had COVID. And as a high-level sportsman, if he didn't get a pre-season and he was really ill, I feel that he's probably a few weeks behind everybody. And I don't think he can use it in a month's time. And I don't really think he can use it from next week. But I think for the last few weeks, it could be an excuse. He just hasn't looked fit to me. We all watch football. And we all, Wayne Rooney used to come back from an injury, and you knew for the first 3 or 4 games he was going to be rusty and slow because Rooney's fitness came from games. And Pogba just doesn't look right to me. But look, we'll see. On his day, he's fantastic, says Sean Negative Turner. But let's be fair, he has one good game in 10. He's overrated, and I like Pogba, but he ain't what he thinks he is. And look, as I said, if he goes, he goes. I won't cry about it. If he stays, then I would want him to be playing better than he is to earn a new contract. Consistency has been a problem. I've got to be honest, if we handed him a new contract tomorrow, I wouldn't be going, yes, we've got Pogba for the next 3 years. I'd be like, why have we given him that contract? I think if he wants a new contract, he's almost got to wait till the summer before we give it him. I would take that risk because he's going to go in the summer anyway if he wants to go. So why not wait till the summer to give him the new contract? And I would say, look, if you want a new 3 or 4 year contract, prove you're worth it over the next few months. I wouldn't be making any decision until the summer on a new contract. But I think United would. I think United would do it because they think, oh, marketability, he's a fantastic player, which he is, but you've got to look at the last 4 years. Pogba position is sacrificed by playing Scott and Fred, not Van. Ollie needs to trust Van and Bruno can play together. Sad thing, Ollie's favourite Scott, says Ronit. Yeah, I agree. I think we aren't seeing Van der Beek start games and we aren't seeing Pogba start games because we're playing 2 players to do one person's job because we don't have somebody to do the one person's job who should be a priority in the transfer market. But Van der Beek has spoken this weekend as well, and he's basically said that he's enjoying being at United. He's been received really well by everybody. So look, Van der Beek's only just come to the club. For him to be on a Dutch duty and say I'm really unhappy would be catastrophic for us as fans, for his career at United. He's got to come out and say the positive and the right things, and I think that's a really positive as well. Why is the show a little bit early? Because England are playing Belgium at 7:45, so I'm going to be watching that. So I just thought we'd do the show a little bit early tonight. I am doing a watch along for it. It's going to be on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, if you want to join me after this one. So I'll remind you that a little bit later in the show. Another bit of news today that, I'm not worried about mentioning it at all. I think it's the right thing to mention, but it does become quite tiresome because it's just why do we do this? Why do we do this? So there's a UK paper today that has basically used Marcus Rashford in a headline saying that he's gone and bought a number of houses for quite a lot of money, and it's done in a subtle way, and Rashford's responded to it, and he's right. He's basically saying, why are you mentioning my campaigning alongside me spending a load of money? What's the message you're trying to put out there? And perception is everything. And I think to a lot of people, that article comes across as young, rich player, spurts loads of money on loads of houses. Why have they got so much money? Look at him, he's so flash, this, that, and the other. Some people even think that there's an air of racism about it as well. Well, perception is everything. Whether it is racist or not, whether they did mean it by that or not, these things happen too regularly. And there is this, we've seen it with Mason Greenwood as well. We've seen it with Raheem Sterling in the past. Footballers being targeted for spending their money, and it's almost like if I was Marcus Rashford, and I think he's very aware of it, he's been the standout star of football for the last 8 months. Fans of other clubs love him, which is weird for a Manchester United player because of the rivalry. He's done a fantastic thing. He's received his awards, but the next step will be with our British press. They'll try to turn it. They'll try, because once you've got a hero, there's nothing better. There's no better story than a fallen hero. And I think Rashford's aware about that, and I think everybody else is aware of that. And I don't think with Marcus Rashford they're going to find that fallen hero thing, because everything I've ever heard about Rashford is that his family life, his friends, I think he's in a relationship, it's all stable, it's all sensible, and he is a stand-up guy off the pitch with strong morals and a strong work ethic, which is why he's been so successful with his work off the pitch. So look, I don't want to dwell on it too much, but a lot of people have been talking about it today. My theory on this is just, he's done really well at the moment, and now the press will be starting to look at a way to get a fallen hero, which I just don't think they're going to get with Marcus Rashford. I think he's too switched on and focused. And look, to be honest with you, I think what Marcus Rashford does off the pitch is amazing, but I would think it was amazing whether it was Marcus Rashford or Marcus the postman from down the road. It doesn't matter to me. I think it's fantastic what he's doing. That does matter, but it doesn't matter that he's a footballer. It doesn't. And I think the combination of the two is somewhat wrong. He's using the fact that he's a footballer to get the impact that he's had with these campaigns, and it works really, really well. But ultimately, Marcus Rashford, from a Manchester United fan point of view, we want to talk about Marcus Rashford, the footballer, and that's what matters from a Manchester United point of view. But yeah, I mean the press. As I said, I've lived this for years. I saw it with Gascoigne back in 1990. Gascoigne could do no wrong after Italia 90. He lit up the world. The press loved him. The UK press loved him. And within a few weeks, it was, where's the bad stuff? Where's the bad stuff? Where's the bad stuff? And that's just what happens. It's the cycle. Will McTominay even be 100% after partying with the Scotland squad, says Ewan Black. And Pogba is United's best player when in form, says Quinton. Not bothered, mate. I just find that sort of comment very what we were talking about this morning. It's not helpful, is it? Like, why would you come out with Pogba's the best player when he's on form? Because all you're doing is setting yourself up for two things. One, you're so far up Pogba's arse, you don't think about what's best for Manchester United. And two, when he's on form, like on his day FC, can jog on. We need players at this club who are on their day every day. This is what I grew up with. I grew up with Roy Keanes and Eric Cantona's and Vidic's and Ferdinand's and Neville's and Beckham's and Scholes and Van Nistelrooy's and Ronaldo's. Yeah, they did have a bad day every now and again, but mainly they were on it. We settle for mediocrity and inconsistency and shout it out from the rooftops that on their day they're one of the best players in the league. Well, I'd rather have somebody who's not one of the best players in the league, who's just very good and plays consistently, because what would you rather have? A world-class player who plays well 1 every 10 games, or a top-class player who plays well 7 games out of 10? You're going to get more out of the top-class player. Consistency is so important. So important. And what's also really important is that we try to support our good players fairly and collectively, and stop doing this, Martial's better than Rashford, Pogba's better than Bruno. It serves no purpose. It serves no purpose other than a negative purpose within our fan base, because we're Manchester United, not Manchester divided. Mark, regarding Tellez's positive COVID test, he will test positive 8 weeks after a positive test. That's why he's still positive, says Casper Sommer. Yeah, I really didn't want to get into that, Casper, this morning, because the reality is I saw something weeks ago about this, and it wasn't even to do with football, that if you've had something like COVID, there is the potential to keep testing positive every now and again for a number of weeks, because you've still got, it only takes a few of those little bloody virus bits to still be in your body that you could test positive, and you are going to have residual ones, but are you infectious, etc. Pogba wants top wages to stay. I would sell him in a heartbeat to play Donny and give Bruno a new deal on the mega wages Pogba wants. He's earned it, says Sean Negative Turner. If he left in 2012, he'd probably more than likely have leave again, depending on the circumstances, says Amarillo. I think Tellez will play next week. Let's see how the week develops, but I do think that Sherwood Forest is really playing me up. I do think that Tellez will play next week. I'm not worried about this story that's floating around, and I would be very worried if Brandon Williams played, but I mean, look, it's West Brom. You'd still expect, then again, Brandon Williams, Harry Maguire, Victor Lindelof. It worries you a bit, but then we'll just play McTominay and Fred to protect them anyway, won't we? So be all right. I'm so happy to see Pogba's contract coming to an end, says Pete Gomez. And Glory Days on their day. Sorry, I think it's been deleted for that, so you didn't even get read out. A Multibox says he's had COVID. I know people that are wrecked mentally and physically after, and I think that's to do with Pogba. DK says Pogba's inconsistent and also injury prone over the last few years. Both him and United need to move on. And, I think I said this in the summer as well. Maguire's suspended tonight, Yash, so he won't be playing for England because he got sent off, didn't he, in the... was it against Denmark? Not Denmark. It was Denmark, wasn't it? He got sent off, I think. Yes, I was going to say this. I said this either last summer or the summer that's just gone about Pogba. Sometimes it doesn't have to be hateful. A divorce can be a mutual thing. You've tried, it's not worked out, let's go our separate ways. And if that happens, that happens. I for one, would not be surprised if Paul Pogba went to Juventus or Paul Pogba went to Real Madrid and was suddenly a fantastic player. And everyone would say, oh, United got it wrong. They couldn't get the best out of him. United are idiots. And people would totally and utterly ignore the most obvious fact. The La Liga and Serie A are ridiculously different to the Premier League. The Premier League is way more competitive and way quicker. La Liga is a hard league, but there's only about 7 decent teams in it. The rest of them are pretty shit. And the Italian league is slow. So Pogba in a slower league, or Pogba in a league where there's less intensity, I would expect him to do well. I would expect Bruno to be a revelation more than he is in the Premier League and La Liga. And probably Serie A. So, imagine what De Bruyne would do in La Liga. Imagine what Salah would do in La Liga. They're different leagues. So I expect Pogba would do well. It wouldn't make me think, oh my God, we got it wrong. If Paul Pogba went to Liverpool and was amazing, that would bother me, because I'd go, well, he's playing the same teams that he played with United. Why? Why did we get it so wrong? But then again, I think if Paul Pogba went to Chelsea and played next to Kante, you'd see a different Paul Pogba. So I agree with what I said there as well a few minutes ago. I do think that Pogba needs a Kante next to him. And, somebody who's just going to run and allow him to play deeper, but not have to be so defensive. And, but we haven't done that. And I do think that Pogba with someone like Kante next to him, it's never going to happen, but I'd be interested to see what Chelsea would do if they had Kante and Pogba in front of their back four. Just whether it is too, but it could still be too quick for Pogba, because Pogba and Kante play together in the French team, and the international football is not the same as the Premier League either. It might just be a quicker league. And Naeem says Bruno flopped in Serie A. Well, he didn't actually flop in Serie A. He was just very young. Hey, Mark, Ronaldo or Bruno for set pieces, says Kaladi. Well, let's sign Ronaldo first. And Mark, you heard the story that Man United use Football Manager database to help with scouting. The article is in the Garden if you want reference. You know what, though? I don't know whether that's true, but a lot of clubs do use Football Manager because it's very, 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 very well researched. And a lot of people do use it. It shouldn't be your only way of scouting players, though. That would be embarrassing. We had our own Kante and Herrera, says Melman. Not really. Herrera wasn't really a CDM specialist. But I think Amartya Singh hits the ball on the head. We need a top-class CDM and a fast centre-back. We're crying out for those things. And I know I mentioned David Alaba this morning, and I know we mentioned a couple of centre-backs on Friday night. But we do need a fast centre-back. And if he's not going to go with Twansebi, he needs to get one. And to be honest with you, I would still get one anyway. Because we're not quick enough in centre-back at all. We're really not. Speed in the midfield is needed, says Michael Jones. Yeah, I mean, look, I do like Fred. I wish Fred could do the CDM role on his own, but it's not going to happen, is it? Anyone in Sussex University, says Ziad. Shout out. I tell you what, I'd take Rabiot, says Iduza. I've always been a bit unsure about Rabiot, or Rabiot, or however you pronounce it. But I know it's only one game, and I have seen him a few times before. But whenever I've watched him over the last 2 years, I've been quite disappointed. I watched him last night, and I was like, you know what? He's got the whole toolkit. He's actually quite quick. He's tall. He's good on the ball. Got a good shot on him. I think Rabiot's got a lot of. I wish we'd got him last summer, really, when he went to Juventus. But I wouldn't be disappointed if we tried to get hold of him. Realistically, if Pogba went to Juventus, could you do a Rabiot and money deal? I don't know, but I do quite like the look of him. But then the problem is, and Neduza says he'd take Rabiot. The problem is with him is that does he then struggle to adapt to the Premier League? How has Wan-Bissaka not got a call-up? Absolute joke, says Alfred Zach. I mean, look, I agree with that. I mean, I saw Maitland-Niles come on for England the other night. Arsenal fans might not like this, but every time I've seen him, I thought, you're shit, mate. Like, you're not even that good. Like, so, I don't know. But then again, I wasn't even talking about Maitland-Niles there. I was talking about Gareth Southgate, the manager. I just don't think he's a very good coach. I mean, is Grealish starting tonight? I mean, I'm going to have a look at that in a few minutes when we go live on Mark Goldbridge That's Football. But if Grealish isn't starting tonight, that's a bit like the Van der Beek thing, isn't it? He played him for an hour against Ireland. He played really, really well. Took him off after an hour. Does he start the next game? It's the same as what happened with Donny in Istanbul. What's your thoughts that Marco Overmars and Edwin van der Sar joined the management position at United, says Victor Iceland is the best. United won't do that. No. Grealish is starting. Well, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. So I'm happy about that. But United won't bring Overmars and Van der Sar in. They won't do that because it'd be too much control to give up. Plus, they've got to pay 2 people. Maguire is suspended tonight, Joycery, so that's why he's not playing. And Sancho's not starting. Well, Sancho's out of favour at the moment, so Sancho's not on the bench apparently. Sancho's not in a good place at the moment. He wanted to leave. I think he thought he was coming to Manchester United. So did I. So did Ollie. And United got played like a pair of cymbals. Really, they got smashed. And so I think Sancho probably isn't in a very good place because of that, and it's left him a little bit unhappy. Apparently, he is on the bench. Mark, could we convert Aaron Wan-Bissaka to centre back? Fast and defensively mighty. Harry could, in theory, cover aerially, says George Barajas. I think you've been playing a bit too much FIFA 21. Aaron Wan-Bissaka will never be a centre back. He just doesn't have the attributes to be a centre back. He goes to ground too much. I don't like how much Aaron Wan-Bissaka goes to the ground. I was always taught don't go to ground because if you slide tackle, you've got to use a second or so to get up. If you stand up and tackle, you save yourself that second. The thing is, Aaron Wan-Bissaka is probably the best slide tackler I've ever seen. So, and as a fullback, it's a good. If you're going to slide tackle as a fullback, you put the ball out of play. You've got a second to get up. If you put Aaron Wan-Bissaka centre back, he can't slide tackle anymore because you think about it, slide tackling in the centre of the pitch, you've got to bloody blast it to put it out. The reason slide tackling works so well for Wan-Bissaka is he puts the ball dead. You take slide tackling away from Aaron Wan-Bissaka and you take away a huge part of his game. So he can't be a centre-back. And I don't think any part of him looks like he's a centre-back either. To me, he is a specialist full-back, pure and simple. But, Van de Candy says he's not even a complete right-back. He struggles in passing. I just think Wan-Bissaka's position is a right-back. I don't think it will ever be anything else. And I'd be very, very surprised. He's just so clean with his tackles. He is. He's absolutely amazing with his slide tackling. But you don't want a centre-back doing that. Like Maldini said, if you slide tackle, that's a mistake on your part because you're out of position. And he's true. He's absolutely true. When Aaron Wan-Bissaka slide tackles, it's because he's out of position, but he's just so good at it that, it's probably, if he was a wrestler, if Aaron Wan-Bissaka came out in WrestleMania, his finishing move would be a slide tackle. He's so good at it. It's his signature. It really is. Anyway, we're at 22-8, which means that England are kicking off against Belgium in 5 minutes. So I better stop this stream and start the next one. You can find it on Mark Goldbridge, That Football. Belgium versus England. Watch along. So looking forward to that. Back again tomorrow, 10 a.m. as per usual. 8 o'clock show. The Sunday night show is going to be 8 o'clock tomorrow with Ricky and Beth and Kev. Looking forward to that as we build towards football coming back and none of this international crap, although we will get the hangover of COVID and injuries, I'm sure, towards the middle of the week. Let's see where we are with that. And remember, if you want to get your Christmas jumper on order, link is in the video description. You can get yours, and very, very, very good. I like this one. We've still got the 5 Cantonars one, and there is a Goldbridge one if you want to check it out. But links in the video description for that. And I'm going to see you on Mark Goldbridge, That's Football, hopefully in a couple of minutes for a Belgium versus England watch along. Thanks very much for watching. Good show, fast paced, good comments, liked it. As per usual, not everybody agreeing, but everybody having an opinion. That's what it's all about. I'll speak to you in a bit. Join me on That's Football if you want to watch the watch along of England. Speak to you in a bit.